Hello everyone, this is Jay and welcome to the first video in my series for Bash scripting. And I'm really excited about this one because Bash scripting is extremely fun and I'm really excited to show you guys how to do it. And I'm going to be showing you from a very entry-level standpoint, so don't think that you have to know a lot about Linux. You have to know a few things, yes, but you don't have to know a lot. You don't have to know a lot about programming either. In fact, this is probably a great place for you to start if you're just starting out in programming. Scripting languages like Bash can be very valuable in your road to learn how to develop. So if you want to learn how to program eventually, then this is a great place to start. Or maybe you already know how to program and you just want to know how to write Bash scripts, then this is definitely a great series for you as well. So now a few things that you do need to know before we get started. Well, honestly, not a whole lot because this is very entry level. What I want to do, as I said, is start you guys off at a very basic level and then build you up. Now what that means is all the scripts that we're going to write at the very beginning are not going to be very useful, but after I get the concepts out of the way, then we're going to start writing some scripts that you would actually want to use while doing Linux administration or anything else for that matter. So with that said, I do recommend that you know how to navigate the Linux file system. Now that does not mean that you need to know what every folder in the Linux file system is for, and you don't have to be an expert in the file system at all. So you don't have to know very much about it. Basically, you should know how to use a cd command to change directory. You should know, for example, the difference between your home directory and the root partition, or the root file system, the root of the file system. And you should know how to use the ls command to list storage. So honestly, that's very entry level. If you've watched my tutorial series on beginning commands in the Linux terminal, then you probably already know everything you need to know anyway, and you won't even have to finish all those videos to be ready for this one. So another thing that you should know is the which command, and I'll show you that in just a second. And also the nano command, the nano text editor, you should know that as well. So before I show you a few things, you might be wondering, well, which distribution should I use? Well, it really doesn't matter because Bash scripting is pretty universal from one distribution to another. Now, there are some differences between some distributions. For example, there might be differences where some of the executables are placed, or which paths are recognized by Bash and things like that. But for the most part, don't worry about it right now as far as which distribution you should choose. Just pick whatever one you want. And if there's anything later that depends on a specific distribution, then I'll let you know. But until then, just use whatever you want. In this example, I'm probably going to be using Linux Mint. I am right now, and I think I'll probably stick with Linux Mint at least for these tutorials. But in Linux Mint is definitely a great place to start if you're looking for a beginning distribution. So use whatever one you want, get it installed. I have a video on how to install Linux Mint. If you don't know how to install Linux, you can look at that video. It tells you how to partition your drive and with my recommended scheme. And you could use that if you'd like. You don't have to use Mint, like I said. If you choose something else, go ahead and install it. If you would like to have me do a video on how to install a different distribution, then I'm certainly open to that if I have the time. If you make the request in the comments, I'll see what I can do. So with that out of the way, Nano. Now I did a video on Nano already, so I'm not going to go over it in great detail, but I don't have to because all you really have to know how to do in Nano for the purposes of these videos is to create and save files as well as how to open files that you've already created. That's really it. So if you are on the command line in your Linux terminal and you type nano, I don't know, I'll just say file, for example, and press enter, then you'll be editing a file that I named, conveniently enough, file. And Nano is a very easy text editor, which is why I chose it for this series. You could use any text editor that you want. It doesn't matter. You can use Vi, you can use Nano, Kate, gedit, LeafPad. There's a lot of great text editors in Linux, but for the purposes of the tutorial series, I'll go over Nano because it is probably the easiest one for beginners. And how do you operate it? Well, basically you just type, and you press enter to go down a line, and that's really it. I mean, you can even tab, you can backspace. I mean, it's just very easy. If you've ever used Notepad in Windows, then you just start typing. That's really all you have to do. So to save your file, you just hold down Control on your keyboard and press the letter O, and then it will ask you which file name do you want to write it to. And right now it shows a file name of file. That's because that's the file that I gave it. Now if I wanted to rename it to something else, I could. But if I press enter without changing the name, it's just going to overwrite the initial file. And that's really it. I just saved the file. Of course the file is empty, so I'll just put something in there, and I'll save it again. Control O and enter is all I did. So now, okay, so I saved it. Well, how the heck do you get out? Well, if you look down here, you have all these different commands, and each one of these you hold Control on your keyboard and press the associated letter to do what it says to do. And in this case it's Control X to exit. And if I press my up arrow to recall the command, I pulled up the same file, and now I can continue editing it. Now another thing that I guess is useful is cut. It's Control K, cuts the entire line. And if I wanted to uncut it, it's Control U. I could just keep pressing it. So that's pretty useful if you wanted to essentially cut and paste, which is what that is. And now if I hold Control, press O, press enter, and Control and X to exit the editor, and I check the file again, you see that all my tests are still there. So I'll Control X to exit. Another command that's useful for these videos is the cat command. And granted, you probably won't need this a whole lot, and I probably won't use it a whole lot, but if you were curious, okay, well, what's in this file or this bash script that I created? Well, without using Nano, you could just type cat in the name of the file, and it would just print the contents to the terminal. So if you just wanted to check real quick what it was that you put in the file, then that's one way to do it. Now finally, another command that's useful, and I'm sure there's going to be other commands that are useful later on, but for now, I don't want to overwhelm you, is the which command. And what this does is it tells you where an executable is located in your file system. Now, for example, I know that the Firefox web browser is installed on my machine. I know it because I use it every day. So if I wanted to know where is that program, I could type which in Firefox and press enter, and it tells me where Firefox is located, which is cool. So which, and then say record my desktop. That record my desktop is what I'm using to record this video, and if I was just curious where the executable for that program just happened to be, I could type which and the name of the program, and there it is. So most of the time you'll probably find most of the executables in the same place or a very similar place, but it's useful if you forget. Just type the which command and the name of a program if you wanted to know where it was. So anyway, with the introduction out of the way, the next video I will have you create your first bash script. So definitely check that out. It should be uploaded already, and stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.